The following is for informational purposes only. For medical advice, please see a medical professional.
Welcome to Staying Alive with Margaret and Susy. I'm Margaret, and Susy's
I'm
here.
Susie.
Yeah, hi, Susy. And today, in this episode, what we're going to talk about is what we eat and why we eat it. And what I want to do is start the episode by telling you about what I know about why we eat what we eat and why I eat what I eat. And then we'll get into the weeds of just taking you through our day and tell you what we eat and why we eat it. Because people have different goals in terms of what they want to accomplish when they're eating, like nutrition is a good one, hopefully, but there's other reasons why people eat. And so I'm going to start with that topic of why do we eat what we eat? Ideally, or maybe people would think, well, we eat what we eat because we're hungry and we need food to live. Yeah, that's good. That's a good reason. But one thing I learned along the way in my eating journey is that sometimes I was thirsty, not hungry. And I ate for that reason. And people with eating disorders sometimes describe their eating to soothe themselves. And maybe that's a reason why some people eat. And so there's different reasons why we eat. And there's research out now where there's a book out on dopamine and how that leveling impacts not eating as much for people who have what we, I guess, call an eating disorder. And so I wish there was just one reason why people ate what they ate, and it was to give nutrients to their bodies. But we're human beings and animals, and there's a lot of different reasons why we eat. Susie, what do you have to say on that?
Well, I think about cultural things. I mean, people eat because they're familial patterns. Like maybe they eat what they're used to. And I've heard studies that say that children who are fed a certain diet, like before they're 5 years old, if you try to feed them a certain way, regardless of what that is, whether it's they eat maybe not good or they eat really good, that they will return to those patterns later in life. And I think that patterns are really, really intuitive with that. Yeah.
As in terms of what we eat. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then thinking a little bit further on why we eat, I was thinking about when we just watch mothers feeding newborns who only eat the formula or the breast milk, if they're able to do that. When a baby's crying, the mother doesn't know, what does my baby need? And right away they want to give the baby the bottle or the breast. Let's see if they're hungry. And sometimes I understand those cues can get off where children learn to self-soothe through eating. And unfortunately for some of us, that carries through in life. And probably for me, it carried through a little bit in my early years. But by the time I was a teenager, I found other substances that were much better for dopamine for me, like nicotine and so I went on to the harder stuff to bring up my pleasure quotient with the dopamine. But some people eat not when they're hungry, but for emotional reasons. And so it's good just to think of, when we're thinking about what we eat, it's also good to think about why we eat what we eat. For me, that's been a real journey. And I wanted to just talk about what I've eaten at different stages of my development and what my goals were. Different people have different goals, and it's good that Susie and I are very different people and probably can give very different perspectives, because I was one of these kids who, from adolescence, was overweight, and I wasn't the obesely overweight child, but I was like in the 20 pounds overweight, and people were always trying to control what I ate. When I first met Susie, guess what her nickname was? Susie, can I say it?
Yes.
Stick, right? And so my life's journey around food and what I ate has pretty much my number one goal throughout my entire life was to control my weight, to either try and be losing weight or at least not gaining weight. And that for me has been a really big struggle through my whole life. And I finally come to an even keel place with it at 70. It's taken me that long to figure it out. And so I want to take with you on a journey of what I ate and why I ate it. So let's just kind of start in adolescence, Susie. Do you want to go first? You want to talk about
Oh gosh.
why did you eat what you ate in adolescence?
I was a nervous person in adolescence. I was very thin and ate a lot. I mean, I would eat breakfast, lunch, after school, hamburger, dinner, dessert, and not gain a pound.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just really burned off a lot of calories. And I think part of that was genetic. My mother I tend to be built like my mother, and whereas my sister was not. And so genetics, definitely plays a big role in how people's bodies are sometimes. But yeah, I was a nervous person, and I tend to still be an emotional eater. Yeah, so like if something stresses me out, I will look for something to eat to comfort myself. Food to me was also something that always interested me, which is why I got into nutrition, because I was kind of fascinated with food. I had two grandmothers that were really good cooks, and my mom sort of liked to cook, but not really. But I always wanted more vegetables and more fruit, and I was really interested in what was going on in the kitchen at my grandmother's house. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting when you say that. I was thinking this just the other day, having I guess we'd call it a fast metabolism. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah. Yeah.
To having a fast metabolism like you, Susie, I was thinking, that's kind of a blessing and a curse for a kid, and
It is.
actually
Yes.
at any age, because when you can eat whatever you want,
You can eat the wrong things.
you can eat the wrong things easier.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
can eat the wrong things easier. And it's interesting.
It doesn't mean you're healthy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I've had to be so careful. Here I am, 70 years old, still 20 pounds overweight, but working on it. You'll hear about that later. And I don't have high cholesterol. I don't have anything because the diet, or like I don't have diabetes. I don't have anything that a real like sugary sweet or fatty diet would have done to me as an old person, because I've chosen to be so careful about what I put in my mouth, because like one ice cream cone can be 1 pound for me, whereas I had an aunt there. I only had one aunt who didn't have this genetic factor of like you look at food and you gain weight kind of thing. And not really. I know that's not a true thing, but she could just eat a gallon of ice cream every night and not gain a pound. But most of us in my family did not inherit that gene.
I did gain weight once I got away from home. I put on the freshman 15 when I went to college.
Yeah.
That might have had a little something to do with, I lived in a dorm my first quarter at college, and I wasn't used to being able to have everything you wanted to eat.
Yeah.
You could have whatever you wanted. And then, to be honest, I would smoke pot and go down to taco time, so I really, I did put on a little weight, but the thing that drove me to want to eat better was my interest in the environment too.
Yeah,
And I,
me too.
probably in 1969, my dad read the book Silent Spring by Rachel Carson, and I read it. And I remember him telling me before he died because he died when I was 17, that I should get into the environmental field. So eventually
Oh,
I
sweet.
got a degree in environmental health with nutrition concentration. And I've always tried to feed my kid, organic food way before it was popular. And people would say, oh, some people feed their kids like that. But it's not that important. Yeah. Not that
That
important.
reminds me of something is that in 1972, I read Diet for a Small Planet. Do you remember
Ah,
that book?
oh yeah.
And for audience members who don't know about that book, there is actually a section where they showed how much water was consumed to raise cattle to create one hamburger.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so in that book, it was a real anti-beef movement in a
Mhm.
certain way, and I can remember at that time I stopped eating beef, and you know what? That's when I started gaining weight, and
Mm.
it took me probably about 40 years to put two and two together and come back to beef and come back to my body's very true and every human body's very true need for protein as a
Mhm.
way to get a balanced nutrition and keep one's weight stable. But back to the late 60s and early 70s, I practically eliminated protein from my diet
Mhm.
because I didn't know anything about nutrition then. I just knew I wanted to eat for a better planet. So I tried to grow my own fruit and vegetables, and I stuck with a lot of fruit and vegetables. And then my main source of protein was trying to combine rice and beans. There was a book, Laurel's Kitchen, right? Remember that? And
Right. Oh,
in the
I think
back,
I still have some of that. Yeah.
oh, I still have that book. And
Yeah.
in the back, it told which type of grain with which bean to combine to get the correct
The complete
vit
proteins. Yeah. Yeah.
minerals
Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah.
and so I would go by that as my Bible to try and do that. Meanwhile, gaining weight, gaining weight, gaining weight
Too many
because
carbohydrates.
I
Yeah.
was eating way too many carbs and not enough protein. But
Yeah.
I didn't know that at the time, and I didn't really
Sure.
think about it. I wanted to stick with that diet, and so then what did I do? I didn't change my dietary intake to try and balance my nutrients. What I did was I just started exercising more and more and more, and my young adult life kind of coincided with the running movement, and
Mm-hmm. I remember that. I remember that.
so I became a
I
runner.
ran with you on the trail and chucking it.
And so, as a young adult and right into middle age, I didn't really think about what I ate anymore. I just kind of figured I'm eating a variety of fruit and vegetables. I'm eating to support the planet, and I can control my weight and not gain weight. Even though it doesn't seem to work without exercise, I can do it by exercising a lot. And
Hmm.
how did you eat in those times in the 70s? What did you do? 'Cause
Um,
you didn't
you
need to
know,
exercise as much as you,
well,
and into
I'm
the
the kind of
80s
person
too.
that I went in and I've always been a kind of person actually who goes in and out of exercise programs. I would go to do aerobics, like 3 days a week and have a really good pattern for a while. Then I'd get into, walking every day. When I was in my 60s, I took Pilates and I really got into that. And so I even got into personal training for a while. I mean, I've gone in and out of exercise programs my whole life.
Now, I
And
was a vegetarian from 72 to 90, and what I can't
that's a long
remember
time.
is,
Yeah. Yeah.
did you eat chicken and fish back then? Were you a
Yes, I did. We
were you
pretty
a
much,
vegetarian when I
yeah,
was?
my husband and I pretty much ate no red meat for a long time. And I'm fortunate to be married to somebody who will pretty much eat anything. So I could cook a lot of different things. And we ate beef once in a while, but not very often. And mostly we'd eat it if we were at somebody else's home and they made it, you
In the
know.
late 70s, early
Yeah, and
80s.
even in the
I
80s,
didn't.
even in the 80s, and I was real lucky. I had a kid in the 80s, and she would eat anything, I
Yeah.
mean, that kid ate Indian food and, Thai food and, whatever. So, I was very fortunate. We always had a garden. That
Yeah.
was a big thing. Even in the 70s, I had a garden, And then when I got together with my husband, we've always had a garden, so we had lots of produce.
Yeah, that's so
And
great. And we lived in the Northwest, so we always knew a
right.
fisherman who would bring us salmon. And
Yes, we
I
ate a
can
lot of
remember,
salmon.
I can remember it's like, I'm going to start eating fish again. Are you kidding me? Like I was a
Mm-hmm.
vegetarian, but salmon was the first thing for me to reintroduce to my diet that wasn't
Right.
completely vegetarian. Then I
Yeah.
became a pescatarian because you've got a beautiful fish coming right off the boat. I mean,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
of course, as soon as you eat that food, you can just tell how much it's nourishing your
Well,
body.
it was so plentiful too, and during those times here in the Northwest. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Now it's kind of expensive, but still available. It's just a little more spendy, and
hmm
maybe you can trade for it here.
But I
And
was
we
so
eat
much,
chicken
yeah,
and fish a lot. And now my husband wants to eat more red meat, and so I'm kind of constantly, going, well, okay.
yeah.
But I don't cook it very much. My grandkids like it too. So, but I don't prefer red meat myself. So I don't cook a lot of it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So in the 80s, was it mostly chicken and fish for you? It kind of
mhm,
was for
mhm.
me.
Yeah, even in the 90s for me, I would say.
I
And
would,
then I worked for a program where I was responsible for what Head Start kids ate.
mhm,
So, I've always been involved in the food thing,
yeah.
that's my whole life. So,
As far as what I ate, like in the 70s and 80s, I was consuming a lot of dairy too. And I mean, we
mhm,
went through the phase where we made our own yogurt. It was so easy to make, wasn't it? And
mhm.
my child was born in 78, and I was a vegetarian at the time, and so much of his protein was in the form of dairy.
Cheese was cheap,
Well, it was
and
mostly milk and yogurt in our
mhm.
family.
Well, our house, it seems like my kid ate a lot of cheese and because it was economical. And we struggled financially in those years. So that was an easy thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah. And remember, you worked for the WIC program, which stood for
Mhm.
Women, Infants, Children. And
Right.
when
Yeah.
when my son was first born, I financially qualified for that program, and that was mostly fortified cereal, fortified juice, and milk were
Right.
the main products.
Nowadays they give you a lot more different things, but back then that's basically what it was
Yeah.
milk, cereal, eggs, and cheese. Yeah.
Gosh, and
Yeah.
cheese. Yeah, I remember the
Yeah. And
cheese. I,
some juice
I
and
don't,
some juice.
and
But
some juice. I don't remember eggs. I don't know.
oh, really?
I don't
Yeah. When I
remember
worked for them,
eggs.
they gave eggs. Yeah.
So
But
I ate so much dairy products. And
mhm.
and so what I've known in my 40s, and I noticed for me then as I aged and started to go through menopause as a woman, dairy products became more intolerant to me. And I can
Mhm.
remember a naturopathic doctor say to me once, think about how much hormones there are in dairy products. It's
Mhm.
not that they're shooting the cows up with bad stuff anymore. It's that
It's just naturally there.
it's
Yeah.
just naturally there.
It's part of the milk. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I really started cutting back in dairy products by the
Yeah.
time I was 50 years of age.
I do some dairy still, and I don't drink milk anymore, but I do some dairy still, and I'm a person who, as a thin person, I also have really thin bones.
Hmm.
So I'm at risk for osteoporosis. So I do some dairy today. It's
Oh,
hard to get
I do
enough.
too.
Yeah, it's
I
hard
do.
to get enough calcium in your diet without a calcium supplement,
Yeah,
unless you do some dairy, because a lot of other calcium sources aren't as absorbable.
right.
And calcium's tricky for
Yeah,
people.
it
Yeah, it
is.
is.
And so
Yeah.
we said we're not going to recommend supplements because
No,
it's
we're
not
not.
our job to do that. But I can tell you that what I take, and I do take calcium, and that's doctor prescribed. So if you think
Right.
that you might be deficient in something, because I mean, wouldn't you say it's true, Susie, that although we try to get all our needs met from food, it just might not totally be possible.
Right. It
Even
really
with
depends on the individual.
even
Yeah.
with stuff that's
Yeah.
fortified with vitamin D, like
Right.
we might still need a supplement, and you'll
Yeah.
do your blood test with your doctor and decide that with your
Yeah.
physician.
It's so much better for your body to get the nutrients that you need from food,
Right.
because supplements aren't always absorbable. And sometimes, especially a water-soluble vitamin like B and C's, well,
See, yeah.
they just go right through you.
Right.
And it's, pharmacists will tell you that's some expensive urine. Yeah, it's
And oranges are
tricky.
so great. I mean, there's so
Yeah.
many easy ways to get
And
something
there's so
like
many other
vitamin
good things in
C.
those foods, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And the supplement industry is somewhat regulated, somewhat not.
yeah,
It's they're not medicines, so they're not as regulated as drugs are, and it can be tricky and it can be very expensive way to
yeah,
go. So,
yeah.
yeah.
So when I was in middle age, I pretty much ate whatever I wanted, and I chose not to eat beef when I was in middle age, but I ate pretty much everything else. But then I didn't eat a lot of dairy. I pretty much stuck with yogurt and such. But I was still exercising a lot. And so
Mhm.
I was still basically able to maintain my weight by exercising. And I could still, I remember in our 50s, my husband and I were really into making our own homemade pizza. And
Mhm.
oh God, it was so good. And we had the pizza stone, and we probably made pizzas for dinner twice a week. And
Mhm.
believe me, the ingredients in that dough and on those pizzas, incredible.
Mhm.
I gained so much weight because at that point my knees had given out. I couldn't run anymore like I had when I was a younger woman. A doctor told me in my early 40s, you have the knees of an 80-year-old woman. You have to stop running. You
Mm.
have to. And I was like, but I'm going to gain weight. Because it never occurred to me yet at that point, think about what you're eating, Margaret. I at that point for my whole adult life for 25 years, I'd been maintaining my weight by just running, 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 running. And so I had to change my food plan, and I just decided to go on this extreme diet. I decided I'm going to be not overweight by the time I was 60. And I threw myself a big party. Susie remembers, she was there with me. And I had lost the weight that I'd gained in my 50s.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
did it through extreme dieting. And I was smart enough to know I was losing a lot of muscle strength along with that weight loss I was having, but I didn't care. I just wanted to lose the weight, and I knew what I was putting in my body was healthy. It was like I was consuming so many vegetables and some fruit too. And I'm not going to name the diet or anything, but I lost the weight. Well, guess what happened over the next few years? I gained it all back. It was really not until my 60s where I began the journey to really figure out how to eat everything I needed nutritionally in my life and maintain my weight without doing extreme amounts of exercise. And
Mhm.
hey, I was in my 60s, so I couldn't even do extreme amounts of exercise at that point. I needed double knee replacements, which I eventually got. And so I had to really start thinking about, what am I eating? And at that point, it was an aha moment for me, whereas I realized for me to maintain my weight and have balance in my diet, I have to eat more protein. And I
Mhm.
am going to introduce small amounts of beef, allow myself to eat pork, allow myself to eat basically any protein that is going to provide the satiety and the balance that I need to have
Mhm.
a healthy diet.
Yeah, I think protein is a big challenge because well, first of all, for the protein foods tend to be the most expensive part of a meal plan.
Mm-hmm.
And so I struggle with that too. And I'm trying to make sure that we get enough protein in our diets here in my house. And I try to have protein at every meal because my struggle in life has been that I like sugar. Now, as a kid, I was just addicted to sugar. My
Mm-hmm.
dad forbid me to eat candy when I was 6 years old, so I would sneak it. And, and I even went to camp and snuck candy. I and hid it in the woods. I was just a candy fanatic. And as an adult, I love to cook and I love to bake and I love to make things for my grandkids. Oh, please make cookies. But I struggle with that. The good news is I've discovered a lot of ways to make desserts and make sweet things for myself that doesn't have a lot of sugar. I've done a lot of research and found recipes. There's tons of recipes online that have great things that you can make for less sugar. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just going to make a joke here. I'm being facetious. If you had just started smoking like I did and discovered nicotine, you wouldn't have this lifetime. Like, I need my dopamine. Give me some sugar. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and like there are other things. I just want to put in a plug. There are other things that we can do to bring our dopamine levels up, like I
Right.
do
And
singing,
sugar,
singing,
yeah, there
singing.
you go. There you go. Yeah, sugar is addictive, really it
Mhm.
is. I mean, because people get used to, like, if they're stressed out or if they have a sweet craving, they eat sugar and you get a dopamine rush.
Yeah,
And then, you think, oh, now I feel better. Isn't that
yeah,
great?
right, right.
So yeah, that's been
So
my
true.
struggle pretty much my whole life. And I go without sugar sometimes, and then all it takes is like ice cream.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, I want it every night. So it is a struggle for me. Last night I made chia pudding. Um,
Oh, good.
and it was good. It doesn't have any sugar in it. It has a few dates, like 3 dates, but it wasn't very sweet. So fortunately I have strawberries in my garden and I put strawberries on it. But yeah, so that's my biggest struggle in my life because my blood sugar or my blood tests show that I'm pre-diabetic. So it
Yeah.
is a struggle for me.
Well,
Yeah.
we've been going for a while, so let's get to like, so what do we eat in our day-to-day life? Let's
Okay.
end the program there. Let's
Hmm.
talk about what we do and what our goals are and why we do it. So
Yeah.
for me, you've heard it's about maintaining my weight and or even losing, and for Susie, it's more about not having getting into addictive eating with sugar and eating
Well,
other nutritional things.
yeah. My goal is primarily not just to avoid sugar, but to try to get enough protein at every meal and to get as many fruits and vegetables in my diet as possible. And I also have to watch my fat intake because I had gallbladder surgery and even though it's been a year, I have to watch what I eat because I get digestive problems if I eat too much fat. So
Hmm.
I have to watch that. Yeah.
And some people our age have adult onset diabetes or high
Mhm.
A1C, and they have to really
Mhm.
look at what how many carbs. Like my friend who's diabetic, she counts carbohydrates, which is very
Yeah.
complex, and that
Yeah.
requires
Seems like a lot of work. Yeah,
professional help to do
it
that.
does.
But
Oh, and the other thing I have to do is I have acid reflux. There's certain things that I not too many things that I don't necessarily eat for that, but boy, you don't eat late at night. I'll tell you
mhm.
that right now. You'll find
No,
out really fast,
as we get
and that's
older.
that's the thing. That's the thing too that's changed in my life. If I had an ideal day, I would eat a good breakfast, and I vary my breakfast. Sometimes it's oatmeal, sometimes it's eggs, sometimes it's a smoothie. I vary my breakfast. If I had a really good day, I would have a bigger lunch and then eat a smaller dinner. I don't always do that because time wise and schedule wise, it doesn't always work out.
Hmm.
But I think that is a nice way to do things because I think as you age, your digestive system slows down.
Yeah.
And if I eat dinner, after 7 o'clock, boy, I'm a mess. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, it's not a good idea.
Well, I'm with you on that. I don't eat after 7 o'clock because I like to get in bed at 9:30 and start reading and fall asleep by 10. So, when you're aged, it's just not good for your digestion. But for me, since it's very much about not gaining weight, maintaining my weight, or actually even losing weight, which I'm doing right now, I need to know how many calories I consume per day based on my exercise level to maintain my weight, and then how much to lose my weight. And so for me, to be honest, for me to maintain my weight, it's like 1,600 calories a day,
And how do
which
you
is low.
do you find that cumbersome to count calories? I'm just
No,
curious.
I use it. I used to, but now there are apps, and so I'm not
Okay.
going to promote any apps, but I use an app, and I know it. I know it's ballpark. If I say small salad and it says 120 calories, I know that that's wrong because of the way I make my salad dressing. You and I both
Oh,
know there's
uh-huh.
no way a small salad is 120 calories, but they're adding in salad dressing, that we don't eat. And
Right.
so
Or croutons.
yeah,
Yeah, something.
it gives me a ballpark on
Mm-hmm.
that, and so I utilize that. And let's say it's 1,500 calories, and so I'm not going to do 3 meals of 500 each because you want to allow for snacks too. But the good thing is that you've got the running tally right there. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you got through lunch and snacks and you've got 400 calories left at dinner, you've got 400 calories left. If you get there and you're like 300 calories left, then you're going to have a piece of steamed white fish and steamed vegetables. It's pretty easy to do. It does really work. And the key thing really for anyone, but especially for older adults, I do not want to lose any muscle. No one should lose any muscle. And so the days of
Well, you're going to lose muscle as you age, though. That's the
that,
thing. So
I
you
mean,
want it.
that's
You
the
want to
thing.
maintain what you got. Yeah.
Right. So you don't want to do even more by extreme weight loss, which then you start losing muscle as well. And so I'm really careful in that. And then I can confidently know if I've lost a pound in a week or two, and it took 2 weeks to lose 1 pound. It took 3 weeks to lose 2 pounds. I know that that was fat that I lost. And I can tell
Mm-hmm.
just by the way my waistband fits around my pants. It's like, this is great. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's a good thing. And it's working for me. And then I can also count my protein too. Because like you said, it's hard to get enough protein. And
Mm-hmm. It is.
I'll be honest, on the days that I'm not eating animal products that are going to get my protein levels where I need, I will use a protein powder and put it in
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
my, like I
Sure.
told you guys, I don't drink milk, dairy. I drink soy milk, and I drink soy milk because it's got higher amount of protein in it than
The
milks.
nut milks. Yeah.
Hmm. And
Some
then
nut milks are fortified, but yeah.
I add protein powder.
Yeah, yeah. Protein powder can be helpful for some people. There are different kinds. Some are flavored, some are not. Some have probiotics in them. There's a wide variety. They're not inexpensive, but they do provide a pretty good shot of protein.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I use them I use them in my chia pudding, and I also use them in smoothies. Drink a lot of smoothies at our house. Yeah,
And
and
what about desserts? I don't want to completely skip over to desserts just because
Mm-hmm.
I'm the kind of person that right now I live in California, and so it's the height of the stone fruit season. A
Oh,
peach in the height of the season to me is the perfect
oh, so
dessert.
good. You ever
Like,
roasted
I
or
mean,
grilled them?
sure.
A
And
grilled
and
peach is so good.
and I don't care about anything else. Like
Mhm.
a perfectly ripe piece of fruit is it for me for dessert. But a lot of
Yeah.
people are like, come on, I want dessert, Margaret.
Right.
So do you want to say anything about
Strawberries
dessert?
are ripe in my yard right now, and so we've been eating a lot of strawberries, and there's a lot of things you can do with strawberries. If you're really trying to be careful, I made a frozen dessert last week with just strawberries, frozen bananas, and a little bit of non-fat yogurt. And you actually freeze it, and it has a similar texture to ice cream.
Wow.
And then I put, if I really wanna jazz it up, I put maybe some dark chocolate chips in it. It's pretty good. I mean, for somebody who doesn't wanna do that much dairy, it's got a little yogurt in it. You can also make it with other kinds of milk. You can make it with coconut milk or almond milk, and
Mhm.
there's all kinds of, it's called nice cream. You can make it with frozen pineapple or mango. Just blend it up and put it in the freezer, or you can use frozen fruit and then
Mhm.
make it, but it's
And
sort of like making a smoothie and then just freezing it, you
yeah.
know? I think
And
that's a good option for some people, but once in a while, I make a cake or something, and I have a really good recipe for an olive oil cake that doesn't have very much sugar in it. It's a
mhm.
lemon olive oil cake. That's pretty good, and I love to make pies, and once in a while, I make a pie. Pies don't have to have a lot of sugar in them. They do have a lot of fat because there's a lot of fat in the crust, but there isn't necessarily a lot of sugar in a pie if you get a sweet fruit. So
Mhm.
you can vary the amount of sugar you put in your pie. And sometimes for some people, if you really want something, sometimes it's better to go out and buy a cookie at a good bakery and have one as opposed to making them at home where you've made 2 dozen. For
Oh, I
me, that's a
see. And then
for me,
yeah.
that's a problem
Yeah, I see.
because
Yeah.
my husband is not really a big dessert person, so if I make a pie at home, it's like he'll have 1 piece and then he forgets about it. Well, I don't forget about it. It's like, "Oh, I'll have just a little sliver for breakfast. Oh, I'll have another one in the afternoon." It's like, so I like to make desserts when I know I'm gonna have company for celebrations. It was just my birthday this week, and my grandkids were like, "You didn't make a dessert." You know? Or, "We didn't have dessert." But actually, we're gonna have something on Sunday, which is Father's Day, so
Oh, sweet, sweet, sweet. Yeah, I'm not gonna say I don't have cake on my birthday. I still make my grandma's Christmas cookies every Christmas that are filled with butter. But
Mm,
when you're concerned like not having a weight gain like I am, it's like then you just take that into consideration and you
right.
eat more steamed fish and vegetables for the
Right.
following couple of weeks, and it all
Yeah, I
works
think
out.
food is also part of your culture and part of celebration. You gotta remember that food is plentiful here. I mean, we are so lucky in so many ways.
Mhm.
I think we've talked before, you and I, about how there were so many foods that weren't even around when we were kids. I mean, I think of the things that are in the grocery store today that I never saw as a child,
Mhm.
and even avocados. I didn't have an avocado till I was a teenager. And now, you've got a lot of food, plentiful food,
Yeah. S
and cooking to me is also an art. I made sourdough bread this morning, as a matter of fact.
yeah.
So,
Well, maybe we need to have
so
another episode on cooking 'cause this has
yeah,
been a nice long
yeah,
one here, and, Susie brings up the fact that, we have plentiful food here. We live on the West Coast of the United States, and even if you're in the heartland, I know my cousins who live in the heartland of this country, there are plenty of large grocery stores now that are all over
yeah,
this
yeah,
country where you can go and get the frozen fish that's delicious and
yeah.
frozen chicken, whatever you need.
We're very fortunate. Sometimes we take that for granted,
Mm,
that we
yeah.
have all this wonderful food. Yeah. So enjoy it.
Yes. Well, I think we've had a nice long session
Mm,
here, and so let's bring it to a close. Is that good,
yeah.
Susie? Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
good.
so I'm just going to say thanks for being with us. Until
Yeah.
next time, we are staying
Staying alive.
alive.
You've been listening to Staying Alive with Margaret and Susy. This show is hosted by Margaret Cooley and Susy Hymas. To subscribe to our show, leave a comment, or ask a question, please visit stayingalivewithmargaretandsusy.com. Our podcast is available on all major podcast platforms. If you've enjoyed our program, please feel free to leave us a 5-star review. Thanks for listening.